This video is part 3 of Chapter 4, Learning, for PSY 110S, the Psychological Sciences. We're going to continue our discussion of operant conditioning by looking at how the process called shaping is done. For any of you who have any experience doing training of animals, dogs, horses, whatever, you've probably used shaping as part of your process of teaching your animals to do tricks of various kinds or to perform on cue. So what shaping is when an animal is trained to give us a specific response by reinforcing with really good timing closer and closer versions of the right behavior. So what you're trying to do is catch the organism, the animal, exhibiting part of the behavior, and you reinforce that part of the behavior, and over time you just continue to up the ante, asking for more and more and more of that behavior until you get to the desired behavior that you want. With humans, shaping works as well. That it might mean that you shape up parts of a behavior that you want a person or a child to exhibit by providing reinforcers along the way to the finished behavior that you want. Now here's an example of B.F. Skinner, kind of the father of operant conditioning, demonstrating how shaping is done.
And we're going to try another pigeon now, and I will try to pick out some particular pattern of behavior and make it a more frequent part of the repertoire of the bird. Very fine. This bird has been already conditioned to eat when the magazine sounds and the light flashes. Now we'll just watch its behavior a bit. It's not doing anything in particular, you see, but I'm going to try to get it to do something. Suppose I shape up the behavior of making a complete turn. What I do is simply, as I did then, to wait for some part of that behavior. There's more of it, you see. Well, you see the effect is instantaneous. I'm waiting for it to turn counterclockwise now. And then I reinforce that movement. I wait for a more pronounced movement than that. It's got to be more than that. There we go, all the way around.
So what Skinner is doing there, he's recognized that the pigeon, and he was fond of using pigeons in his work, the pigeon has already been trained, number one, to sit on that platform. Number two, that food is going to come into that hole in the background. Number three, that there's a sound associated with the delivery of food. And number four, that there's a light that signals the simultaneous delivery of the food. Now, those elements are not requirements for shaping, but I just want you to understand this is a bird that's already been trained to do many other things in order to receive food rewards. So that's part of why he can do this so quickly, but he's choosing at random a brand new behavior. Now, he's making some systematic decisions. Pigeons, like lots of birds that feed off the ground, they spend a lot of their time just sort of walking around, pecking at things. So he knows that about these organisms. So he's chosen a behavior that's consistent with the bird's natural behavior, which is sort of wandering around pecking at things. Then by using really, really good timing, what he has in his hand is a button that delivers the food, activates the light, and it tells the bird that there's a reinforcement available. So he catches those little moments of that behavior that he's looking for, and then consistently increases the amount of the behavior that he wants. And that's really the essence of shaping. Another part of the operant conditioning process, if you're doing it very, very systematically, is to record responses as they accumulate over time, and this becomes what's called a cumulative record. What the cumulative record shows is the rate of responding over time. When no responses are occurring, the record is flat. It has no slope. When the responses are increased, you see changes in the appearance of that cumulative record. What this provides you, if you're doing training, is a visual depiction of how fast the organism is responding. The slope of the line, as it gets steeper, that means that the response rate is faster. So this is an image from your textbook of a cumulative record showing, the flatter that the slope is, that's the slower the responding. As learning occurs, the response rate tends to be faster. So as the organism figures out what's the secret sauce to getting my reinforcement, it starts to respond more quickly over time. So one way of documenting learning through operant conditioning is by creating a cumulative record. As with classical conditioning, discrimination and generalization are also possible within operant conditioning. A discriminative stimulus is a stimulus that has to be present for a response to be given a reinforcer. So with the pigeon video, the light being on, that is the discriminative stimulus. It says, yes, reinforcement being delivered. That light has been paired with the food itself, so that, and that pairing is through classical conditioning, but eventually it becomes a discriminative stimulus. So as your authors put it, it sets the occasion for the response. An example would be a rat learns to press a lever. It will result in food when a particular light is on, but not when the light is off. That's the ability to respond to a discriminative stimulus. There's also stimulus generalization. You need to have your organism respond to similar stimuli in the same way. So you have an operant response in the presence of a stimulus that is similar to that discriminative stimulus. And an example would be a rat learning to press a lever only when the light is red, and being able to discriminate between red shades versus green shades, and know that any shade of red will work, but green shades will not. That's generalization. Now here's a concrete example of how dogs can be trained to do what's called scent work through operant conditioning. So here you've got a dog, Maverick, who's learning to search for the odor of birch tree. The odor this is an odor that's used at the novice level. So what she's doing is she's taking a can, putting the smell in it. He smells it in the can, and he gets a reward. Now her using the word yes, that is a marker that he is successfully doing what she wants. She's going to really reinforce him just approaching the can, smelling the can, before she moves on to further steps in training. Now she's adding a can that does not have the smell. She's going to continue the task, and his job is to point out the can with the smell in it, not the can without the smell in it. She's just added a cue Find it.
Yes. Find it. Yes. Find it. Yes. Find it. Yes.
Now eventually she's going to switch it up on him
Find it.
and move the
Yes.
scent can to her left hand instead of
Find it.
her right, so that he
Yes.
can learn that what he's really looking for is the
Find
smell, not her right hand. So right
Yes.
there he goes.
Good girl.
So now, oh, Maverick
Find
is a
it.
girl. Really thinking hard now.
Yes. Good job. Find it. Yes. Good girl. Good girl. Find it.
She's going to wait her out. She's like, it always worked before.
Yes. Good girl.
And
That was a hard one, huh?
She helped her a
Find
little
it.
bit.
Yes. Jackpot. Good girl. Jackpot. Jackpot.
For this
Jackpot.
trainer, jackpot
Good
means
job.
she gets a
Find it.
bunch of treats.
Yes. Good girl. Find it. Yes. Good girl.
Now you can
Find it.
see how repetitive this process is when you're training
Yes. Good girl.
a dog for scent
Find
work.
it.
The task that she's doing right now would be done over a series of
Yes.
days
Good
until
job.
the dog
Good
gets
girl.
really,
You get a
really,
jackpot for
really
that.
solid
Jackpot. Good girl. Find it.
on this task. Generally, training
Yes.
sessions are
Good
maybe
girl.
10 or 15 minutes at a
Find
time,
it.
so that the dog doesn't get bored, fatigued,
Yes. Good
or
job.
frustrated.
Good girl.
And you really have to
Find it.
know your dog to know how to time your practice.
Yes. Good job, Maverick.
Now the next step is introducing new context for the dog to search. So notice the increasing complexity of the task that's being provided to the dog.
Okay, we're going to teach Maverick now to start searching for the odor in boxes. The boxes can be all different sizes. I'm going to keep them open. I'm going to put the odor in, birch oil, and I'll just leave the boxes open. I'm also going to put in her motivator, which in this case is dehydrated rabbit. Maverick is extremely food motivated. So we leave the boxes open. She's just going to come wander through the boxes, and when she notices the odor of the food, she's going to dip her head in and get a good strong snoutful of the birch, and it won't be long before she will use the birch to find her food because the birch odor is so much stronger. Okay, now we're bringing Maverick in for the search. Yes. Yes, good girl. So I'm going to feed her in the box in addition to her eating the food that I paired. Good girly. All right, we're going to bring her out. Sit, please. Good. Stay. And now I move the boxes up around because if you leave them in the exact same position, then what's going to happen is the dogs are going to see the same configuration and say, oh, it's always in this box. This way, when I change it around, she has to actually search for it. All right, we're going to take her through again. I get my treats ready. Up, please. Let's find it. Yes, good girl. So she got the motivator. I'm feeding her another one. Good girl. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do it one more time with the motivator. Sit, please. Good. Stay. Again, I change up how everything looks. And we'll try it again. Off, please. Off. Let's find it. So she's knowing to stick her head in. Yes, good girl. Good girlie. Yes to you. Good girl. Okay, so I usually do a minimum 3 searches paired with a motivator. And since she knew to look, let's go ahead and see how she is without the motivator this time. Good girl, come here. Sit, please. Stay. All right, there's no motivator. I still need to mix up the boxes. Everything needs to look unique each time. Otherwise, she's going to go back to the same area, same box. And I leave the odor in the same box because if you switch out boxes, what's happening is you're going to have lingering odor. So if she sticks her head in a box where the odor used to be and it's gone, and then you treat her for sticking her head in another box, you just taught her to ignore odor. So we're not going to do that. We're going to keep the odor in the same box. No treat this time. Stay. Okay, let's find it. Yes, good girl. So she had a head snap, and I didn't wait for her head to go all the way down, which was definitely my fault. Good girlie. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. Sit, please. Stay. All right, ready? No treat. Find it. We're working, please. And this is what happens with new dogs. They do get distracted. Yes, good girl. Good girl. Nice job. Look at you. Good girl. Okay, one more time. That was very nice. That was no motivator that time, and we'll do one more without a motivator. Sit. Stay. Good. Stay. Oopsie. Where's your sit? Where's your sit? Thank you. We'll do a circle this time. Okay, ready? Here we go. Find it. Yes, good girl. Good girl. Now she's not alerting yet because she doesn't know to alert. All she knows is to stick her head in the box with the odor. Good girl. Nice. You're done for now. Yeah. Step 3 now is to teach my dog to think outside the box. So we've done cans to teach them that odor is desirable. We did boxes to teach them to search for the odor in a contained area where the odor is strong. Now we're going to do an exterior search where it's a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to find a place to put the odor. I'll put it under these leaves. And I'm also going to pair it with a motivator. So, dehydrated rabbit. I'll put it with the odor. All right, now we'll go get Maverick and see how she does. Our first exterior search with Maverick. She knows there's something there. Yes, good girlie. She's sticking her nose right where the odor was. I'm going to treat her even though she didn't indicate to me this is what we're looking for, just because she obviously used her nose to get to this area. And she doesn't know yet. She's okay, good girl. Yeah, let's go. We're going to put it in a different location now. You cannot hide odor more than once in a small confined area because there's going to be drifting odor, and it's going to especially confuse a novice dog. Okay, so we did so well in the first search. We're not going to add the motivator this time, so this is Maverick going after odor with no motivator. Find it. Yes, good girlie. So she stuck her nose right in it. Good girl. Here you go. And I'm going to feed her as close to the odor as I can. We are not ready yet for a trained alert behavior. Okay, our third search, the exterior search. I train in sets of 3. You do more than that, then what you're going to do is give overload to the dog and stress them out or bore them. So we do sets of 3. Are you ready? Let's go find it. Yes, good girl. So she noticed odor and she was going to come back to me and say, so what is it that we're doing? And then she goes, no, wait, I noticed odor down there. Good girlie. And again, I feed her as close to the odor as I can. Nice job.
So that fairly long video does a really nice job of showing a practical reason why you would be wanting to use operant conditioning. It should also give you some more respect for the work that those drug sniffing, contraband sniffing dogs at the airport are really doing with their time, and how extensive their training has to be to do what they do. Now here's another example of an important application of using operant conditioning to train animals to do an important task. And I just found the story of these bomb-sniffing rats to be fascinating.
It's early morning, and Mandy is boarding the bus for her regular journey to the training fields. But today, she has a big test ahead to see if she's ready to join an elite team on a mine-clearing mission to Mozambique. In the past, dogs have been used for mine detection, but African pouch rats like Mandy have distinct advantages.
Rats have some advantages to dogs. That is, of course, they're smaller in size, they're much cheaper, especially the transport. Our animals which we're using, they're almost blind, or they don't see much, because they're night animals, so they're completely depending on their sense of smell and hearing. And if you look at them, they're sniffing all the time.
As with the TB training, Mandy and chums have spent several months in laboratories tuning their noses to the smell of TNT, the explosive in landmines. Having completed this stage, they put their nose to the test in the field on a series of courses designed to stretch their mine-sniffing capabilities.
We use 3 meter, and we call it contamination, whereby we use iron casings. So we put them down in the field. They are 3 meter wide, that's why we call them 3 meter. Then the latch, when it's used with that system, then the latch goes to 5 meter. The distance from each landmines is much farther to make the latch work more to find the landmines. They are like humans. Some of them they are good, some they are not good. So they're different capabilities.
Mandy is one of the rat school's high achievers. Most take about a year to train, but she has made it to the final test in a mere 8 months.
Yeah, the rats have to do a few hundred square meters, containing, let's say, 5, 6, 7 mines, and they're not allowed to miss one mine. When they miss one mine, they cannot operate on the minefield.
Today, 9 real landmines have been hidden. Mandy will have to find them with 100% accuracy. Guided by a search string which is connected between her 2 trainers, Mandy moves systematically up and down the course, processing lane by lane. Every time she sniffs a mine, she scratches the surface at the spot. Weighing less than 5 kilograms, she's too light to set off the explosive device. And when she indicates a mine, she gets what she's in it for, a click followed by a reward. With 9 mines to find, that's a lot of bananas to eat. And as Mandy's ever-expanding pouches show, she's doing rather well.
They work for their food, and they work a bit mechanical. Once they know something, they love to repeat it all the time, as long as they know they're going to get the food and they're confident they can do the job. So that makes them very well suited for this job, you know.
Finally, when Mandy's cheeks can take no more banana, the test is over. She has passed with flying colours and will head to Mozambique on a mine-clearing mission. It's early morning.
Now, beyond these practical examples of scent work in dogs and bomb-sniffing rats, you have some nuances that you need to learn about operant conditioning training. There are different patterns that you can use to train behaviors. Some of them lead to very fast learning, but also very fast extinction. Others lead to a little bit slower learning, but much greater resistance to extinction. Continuous schedules of reinforcement are basically reinforcement schedules where every time the desired behavior is shown, it gets a reinforcement. So every single time. Let's say you're trying to potty train your toddler and you give your toddler, this was my Aunt Ginny's approach to potty training little kids, was to give them an M&M. So they pee in the potty, they get an M&M every time, every single time. That would be a continuous reinforcement schedule. A partial reinforcement schedule, and I'll use my Aunt Jenny's approach to potty training, again, after her kids, she used to have an in-home daycare, after her kids got really solid at peeing in the potty and getting their M&Ms, then she would stretch it out. They would need to go a certain amount of time, or they would have to use the potty a certain number of times before they could get their reinforcement. Sometimes she made this predictable, like early in training, and then over time, she would surprise the kids with a reinforcer. But she didn't do that at first. At first, she used a continuous schedule of reinforcement for using the potty, and over time, she switched to a partial reinforcement schedule. Now, the partial reinforcement effect explains why my Aunt Jenny did this. This is the finding that when you use a partial reinforcement schedule, the organism, whether you're talking about a dog doing scent work or a child learning to use the potty, when it's unclear to the organism exactly when their reinforcement is going to come, they are more robust in their responding, and they are more likely to continue to exhibit their behavior even if the reinforcer doesn't show up. Now, a classic example of this in the human world is slot machines. Gambling designers, so people who design games, and you know, especially given the current time that we're in, where we have just so much access to online gaming, this will make sense to a lot of you. Gambling is powerful. So using the example of the slot machine, the behavior that's being reinforced is twofold: putting money in it and then pulling the lever, just like a rat in a cage. So the player, the gambler, has no idea when the reinforcer is going to come, the payoff, the winning combination, due to the spins. So they are much more likely to keep pulling the lever, even though it's highly unlikely that they will ever win. Now, they may trick themselves into thinking they have some control over this when they really don't. There's no really predictable way of showing, you know, when is that reinforcer going to come. So what game designers know when they are working in the gambling space is that got to use a partial reinforcement schedule that includes no way for the player to predict the positive reinforcement. There are various schedules of reinforcement that you can use depending on what you need to be able to show when you're training. You have ratio schedules, which is based on the number of responses. So this is a partial reinforcement schedule where, say, you have to make the response 10 times, then you get your reinforcer. What happens with rats in a Skinner box, for example, they have to push a lever 10 times, then they will get their food reward. So what will happen is they will start off responding moderately, and then as they get closer and closer to 10, they will get kind of excited about it. but generally their responding is pretty consistent. So they know it's about 10, so they're going to hit that bar at a fairly consistent rate until they get their reinforcer. That's a fixed ratio. A variable ratio, the organism wouldn't know how many responses it's going to take. So in a fixed ratio, they know it's about 10, so they're likely to speed up toward the end of the 10. In variable ratio, they're just going to hit that bar as hard as they can, as fast as they can, because they don't know how many responses it's going to take for them to get their reinforcer. So you've got various ways in which the cumulative record can show these two. In fixed ratio responding, you have some greater consistency, whereas in the variable ratio, you have these spurts of activity when the reinforcer is given. Generally speaking, with the fixed ratio, the little slanted line shows when the reinforcer is given. So the organism, whether it's a rat or a person, knows exactly how many responses it's going to take. So they're going to speed up as they close in on that goal. With a variable ratio, you're just going to hit the bar as fast as you can without those jumps in responding toward the end. There are also interval schedules. And again, you have fixed and variable interval schedules. In fixed interval schedules, an interval means it's about time. So basically, the organism knows that after a certain amount of time, the reinforcer becomes available. So if it's fixed, the organism knows just about how much time it's going to take. So they start out really slow because they know it's just really about time. But as it approaches the end, then there's a burst of activity, a real hard burst of activity. So let's say it's a 5-minute interval, and the rat knows it's about a 5-minute interval. Anyone who's been around dogs, cats, whatever, they kind of have a broad sense of when food is typically delivered in their lives. Like my dogs eat around 4 o'clock. The begging starts at 3, right? So it's not surprising that a rat could figure this out. So the rat knows it's about 5 minutes. You're getting to the 3-minute mark. They're going to start, testing out the lever. As they get closer and closer to 5 minutes, they're going to have a burst of responding toward that end. With the variable interval schedule, the rat has no idea how much time is going to pass. So you have much more consistent responding. So what you see here, the blue line is the fixed interval. You have this swoop up and then a real high rate of responding right around the fixed time period. And so you have this jagged line. The orange line shows the variable interval. You just have consistent high rates of responding because the organism doesn't know how long it's going to take for that reinforcer to be delivered. And that concludes this portion of Chapter 4.